this session, we are going to learn Node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub Action. So as you can see, this is my article to deploy EKS using GitHub Action, right? So here we are going to follow this article. So first of all, let's understand the contents. So first of all, we need to create Amazon EKS cluster using EKSCTL. Then we are going to create Node.js code on Ubuntu. After that, we are going to build and run Node.js Docker image. Then run Docker image on browser and then push Node.js code to Docker on GitHub repository. Then we need to add secret GitHub in GitHub repository. After that, we are going to create our GitHub action workflow to build and push Docker image to our ECR. After that, we are going to run our action workflow. Then after that, we need to install Helm to EKS cluster. Then we need to create nodeapp on Helm chart. Then we need to modify our files like deployment, service, and values.yaml file. Then we are going to push nodeapp folder to our GitHub repository. After that, we need to update GitHub action workflow, and then let's check our pods, deployment, and service, and let's access our image in browser. So that's the contents that we are going to learn. So first of all, here, as you can see, we need to create Amazon EKS cluster using EKSCTL, right? So here, as you can see, this is my article to create Amazon EKS cluster using EKSCTL, right? That we have learned in previous session. Okay, so now here, as you can see, here I have already created my cluster with the name sample and the status is active and the Kubernetes version is 1.27. This is the default and latest version, right? And the provider is EKS. And if you go to my instance, so as you can see, there is two instances with the name sample, right? So as you can see in terminal, you can see here EKS cluster sample in AP South 1 region is ready, right? Okay, that means we have successfully create our EKS cluster. So you can follow this article to create Amazon EKS cluster using EKSCTL, right? So in this article here, as you can see, first of all, we need to install EKSCTL, then install kubectl, then we need to install AWS CLI. After that, we need to create AWS access key ID as well as secret access key ID. Then we need to configure AWS CLI, right? It will ask AWS access key ID and secret access key ID. So here, as you can see in fourth step, we have already created, right? Okay. After that, then create Amazon EKS cluster using EKSCTL and then check nodes and clusters, right, on EKS cluster. So that's the contents of how to create Amazon EKS cluster. So you can follow this article to create EKS cluster. Okay, so now we have already created EKS cluster. Okay, now the second step is we need to create Node.js code on our Ubuntu. So how to create? So you can see in this step we need to create Node.js code. So as you can see here, first of all we need to create package.json file. So I'm going to clear my screen first. Okay, if I run my ls command, so as you can see there is no any folder, there is only AWS, right? Okay, now let's create package.json file. So first of all, I'm going to create folder using mkdir command, and my folder name is sample Node.js. Okay, now if I run the ls command, you can see sample Node.js. So I'm going to my folder. Now if I run the ls command, as you can see there is no any file. So I'm going to create package.json file here. Run the sudo nano package.json. So here I'm going to paste this code. Okay, so let's save the file, Control X, then Y, and exit. Okay, now if I run the ls command, as you can see my package.json file. Okay, then the next file is we need to create server.js file. So let's copy the server.js file. and let's paste this code. Okay, so as you can see in my server.js file, there is port number 8080 and the host is 0.0.0.0. That means any IP address. That means when we access in our browser, then 0.0.0.0 means any IP address colon, then we need to enter 8080 port number. Then we are going to, our output will be hello world, right? Okay, now let's save the file and exit. Okay, now the next file is docker file. So we need to create docker file. So let's create docker file using below code. Now let's save the file and exit. Okay, now if I run that command, ls command, there is 3 files, right? Okay, let's create one more file with the name docker ignore file. And in this file there is code, node modules and debug log. Okay, let's save the file and exit. Okay, it's run. Now if I run the ls command, as you can see there is 3 files, and if I run the ls-a command, there is 4 files, right? Docker ignore, docker file, package.json and server.js file. Okay, now let's clear the screen first. Okay, now it's done. Now the next step is build and run node.js docker image. So how to build and run our node.js docker image? So as you can see, to building your image, go to the directory that has your docker file and run the following command to build the docker image. And the -tag flags lets you tag your image, so it's easier to find later using the docker images command, right? So here in node, as you can see, before run this command you need to install docker and give some permissions, right? As you can see, if I run this command, you can see there is an error. So let's run this command, docker build dot hyphen t and your username. So my username will be DevOpsint. Okay, and then enter. As you can see, docker not found. So we need to install docker first. So as you can see, the docker command to install. So I'm going to install docker first. Let's enter. Okay, it's done. Now let's clear the screen first. And now give some permissions to our docker image. Here, as you can see, if I run this command without give permission, you can see there is an error, permission denied. So that's why we need to enter, we need to give permissions. Okay, and the next one. Okay, now let's run the command to build our docker image. Our docker image name DevOpsint, right? Okay, so as you can see, it's building, sending build context to docker daemon 5.12 KB, our image size. So as you can see, it's building. So wait for few seconds. Okay, as you can see here, successfully build and the build idea and successfully tag DevOps in node app and the tag is latest, right? Okay, That means we have successfully built our image. Okay, now let's clear the screen first. Now the next step is here. Now we are going to run our image. So running your image with -d runs the container in detached node and leaving the container running in the background, and the -p flag redirects a public port to a private port inside the container. Right? That's the -p meaning and the -d meaning. Okay. Now let's run this command. Now before run this command, if I run docker images, as you can see our docker image, DevOps sync nodeapp, the tag is latest image id and created about a minute ago, and the size, right? Okay, now let's run our image. Enter your username. So our username, our docker user image name, DevOps sync, right? Okay, it's done. Now if I run the docker ps, so as you can see here, container ID, image name, command created, status, and the ports. So as you can see in container ID, that's our container ID. Then image name DevOps hint slash node app, and the command is here. And the created 12 seconds ago, status up 11 seconds, and the port number 0.0.0.0 and 49160. That means any IP address, then colon, and that's our port number, right? Okay, so now let's access in browser, right? So as you can see, the next step is let's access in your browser. So first of all, we need our instance IP. So let's copy our instance IP, and here I'm going to enter my instance IP, then colon, and then our port number. So port number is here 49160. So let's enter our port number. Okay, if I hit enter, then here you can see hello world, because our server.js file, right? Hello world, right? So that's our server.js file. That means our docker image, right? Hello world server.js file. Okay, it's done. Okay, now it's done. Okay, so we have successfully accessed our docker image on our browser. Now let's go to the fifth step. Now the fifth step is push Node.js code and Docker on GitHub repository, right? Because here we are going to deploy. Here, as you can see, our topic is Node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub Action, right? Here we are going to use our GitHub Actions. So that's why here we need a GitHub repository, right? So as you can see here, this is my repository with the name Node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub Actions. So I have already created my repository with the name this, right? So we need to clone our repository first. So I'm going to open, okay, we need to clone our repository. So as you can see here, I have already cloned my repository, you can see. So there is only one file with the name readme.md file, right? Okay. As of now, there is no any file. There is only one file. Now I'm going to open this folder into Visual Studio Code. So let's open folder. So go to the C drive, then users, administrator, and here is our folder. Okay, so as you can see, as of now, there is no any folder. There is only one folder with the name readme.md file, right? Okay, now we need to we need to, as you can see, we need to push this Node.js code and Docker on GitHub repositories, right? So that firstly we need to add files here. Which files? Here in our sample Node.js folder, Docker file, package.json file, server.js. Okay, so I'm going to create files here first. Okay, so let's create. If you want, then you can clone your repository first, and then you can push package.json. Okay, so let's enter code here. Let's copy the code. So now as you can see here, firstly Docker file, as you can see in Docker file, right? Then package.json file, right? As you can see the package.json file. So this is our package.json file, right? So as you can see, then Docker file, after that server.js file, right? Okay, so we need to push this code into our repository. Okay, so here I'm going to use git bash to push this code into my repository. So first of all, I'm going to clear my screen, and after that, now let's enter cd and your folder name. So folder name is Node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub Action. And now, as you know, the command to push this code into a repository. So the command is git add dot, then git commit hyphen m in double quote our commit. So our commit will be files added. And in last, git push. Okay, it's done. So let's go to our repository. So here's our repository, right? Let's refresh the page first. Okay, so as you can see, our file, Docker file, package.json file, and server.js file. Okay, so now the next step is our workflow. So let's check our next step. So we are in fifth step, right? Now we are go to the sixth step. So first of all, we need to add secret in GitHub repository, right? So let's go to the GitHub repository, then go to the settings. So we need to add some secrets. Which secret? So we need to add two secrets here. One for AWS access key ID, and second one is one AWS secret access key ID. So go to the secrets and variables, and here add repository secrets. So as of now there is no any secret, so click on new repository secret, and let's add new secrets here. First for AWS access key ID. So here is my access key ID. So I'm going to copy my access key ID. Okay, now the next one is AWS secret access key ID. So let's add new one, AWS secret access key ID. So here is my secret access key ID. Add secret. Okay, now it's done. Now the next step is here. Before create our workflow, we need to create ECR. That means Amazon Elastic Container Registry. Right here we need to create our repository. So as you can see here, I have already created a repository with the name DevOps Seed. And if I click on my DevOps Seed, as you can see, there is no any image as of now, right? We need to push image. Okay. So as you can see, image is 0. There is no any image as of now, right? So it's scrolling. Okay, you can see no image, no image display, right? That means as of now there is no image. Now the next step is we need to create our workflow. As you can see, create GitHub action workflow to build and push Docker image to ECR. Create GitHub action workflow to build and push Docker image to ECR. So firstly, we are going to push Docker image to ECR, right? Which image? Docker image, not Helm. Okay, Docker image. So I'm going to create my workflow to build and push Docker image to ECR. So as you can see the workflow, so I'm going to copy my workflow and let's go to the GitHub action, click on actions and click on set up a workflow yourself. And here look like something went wrong. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, our workflow name is main.yaml file, right? So I'm going to paste my workflow here. Okay, so let's understand workflow first. So first of all, as you can see, name Node.js app deploy to EKS, right? Here we are going to deploy this Node.js. So my name will be changed. So I'm going to change my name. So now my name will be here like this. Sorry, here. Build and push Docker image to ECR. So I'm going to change my name, this build and push Docker image to ECR, right? Okay. Then on push main branches main job deploy runs on Ubuntu latest, and as you can see our action.checkout repository. Then we are going to install kubectl here, and the version is 1.27 default and latest. Then configure AWS credential. You can see here we are going to use this repository. After that, AWS access key ID. So here is a secret, right? So we have successfully added our secret AWS access key ID as well as AWS secret access key ID. Then our region is AP South 1. Then here we are going to log into our Amazon ECR. So here we are going to use this repository. After that, build tag and push Docker image to Amazon ECR. So here, as you can see in this step, we are going to this page. Which page? Our ECR. That means Amazon Container Registry. After that, repository. So our ECR container repository name is DevOps Scene. So let's replace this name with our DevOps and my repository name is DevOps and the image tag is latest. Okay. Then after that runs build docker image hyphen t registry, then repository image tag is latest, right? Okay. Then name here, as you can see, update kubeconfig and run AWS EKS update hyphen hyphen kubeconfig hyphen hyphen name, and the sample name is our cluster name. So our cluster name is sample. So as you can see here in my cluster name is sample. So as you can see, my cluster name is sample, right? Okay. So here we need to replace our cluster name. Okay, my cluster name is sample. Okay, it's done. Now let's commit and changes. And let's go to the actions and let's check our workflow. As you can see, is in progress. So the status is queued. So wait for few seconds. It will running. So as you can see, is in progress. So now we are going to log into Amazon ECR. That means we are going to this Amazon ECR page, then build tag and push Docker image to Amazon ECR, right? So it takes few seconds to complete our job. So wait for few seconds. So now as you can see, it's done. Succeed now in 2 minutes and 12 seconds, right? That means you are successfully done our job. Okay. Now if I click on this, first of all, here install kubectl, then configure AWS credentials, right? That means our secrets and all. Then after that, log into our Amazon ECR, that means this elastic container registry. After that, next is we are going to build tag and push Docker image to Amazon ECR, right? That means our tag, then push Docker image to our ECR. Then update our kube config, then post login to Amazon ECR and so on, right? Okay, that means you have successfully succeed our workflow. Now let's go to the elastic container registry, and if I refresh my page and go to the DevOps scene, click on it, as you can see our image, you can see images one, and wait for a few seconds, it's scrolling. So as you can see, our image tag is latest, right? In our workflow, our tag is latest and the artifact type image push timing and date and the size and so on. As you can see our image details, that means we have successfully pushed our image to Amazon ECR. Which image? Here, our image, to build and push Docker image to Amazon ECR. So we have successfully build and push our Docker image to Amazon ECR, and the image is here and the tag is latest. Okay, now it's done. Now it's done. Now the next step is run GitHub action. Okay, it's done. Now the next step is install Helm on EKS cluster. Now we need to install Helm on EKS cluster. So first of all, we need to download the Helm installation script using below command. So here's the script. So I'm going to copy this script to install, to download Helm chart on my EKS. So here I'm going to exit, click on enter CD to exit our folder. So I'm going to enter the script. Okay, now it's done. Now the next is add execute permission to the downloaded script. So here is the command to give permissions. So I'm going to enter this command to give some permissions. Okay, now next is execute the installation script. So let's enter this command. Okay, now it's downloading. As you can see, Helm install into user local bin Helm. Okay, now validate the Helm installation by executing the command. If you want to check, then you can run the Helm command to some helps. And now if you want to check the Helm version, then enter Helm version. As you can see the version and the details of about our Helm. So I'm going to clear my screen. Okay, now we have successfully installed Helm, right? Okay, now the next step is here we need to create node app Helm chart. So how to create? So here is the command. So as you can see, we will create a Helm chart node app chart for the node app application. To create Helm chart, run this command. So here's the command how to create. So the command is Helm create and your node app and your folder name, right? So my folder name will be node app chart, otherwise node app, right? Whatever. So I'm going to copy this and paste here. So my folder name will be node app, Helm create node app. Okay, so I'm going to enter. So creating node app, if I run the ls command, so as you can see the folder node app, right? That means we have successfully created our Helm chart. Okay, now if I go to my node app and run the ls command, so as you can see the folders and files. So the first is chart.yaml, then charts, then templates, then values.yaml file, right? Okay, now the next is, if I scroll down, so first of all let's understand the file first, right? So firstly there is a chart folder. So this folder contains any other dependencies for the node app chart. Then template folder, so this folder contains all kubernetes yaml or manifest file. If I go to my template folder, you can see, and if I run the ls command, so as you can see the folders node.txt, helpers.tpl, deployment.yaml, hpa.yaml, egress.yaml, service.yaml, service account.yaml, and test folder, right? Okay, so as you can see, this folder contains all Kubernetes YAML or manifest file for creating Kubernetes objects such as Kubernetes deployment, Kubernetes services, config maps, and secrets. And in this guide, we will only require the deployment.yaml and service.yaml. And we will modify these two files, add our configuration for deploying the Node.js application, right? Here, we need to modify these two files in this folder, template folder. We need to modify two files, deployment.yaml as well as service.yaml file. So here you can see we will modify these two files and add our configuration for deploying the Node.js application, right? Okay, then next is here, sorry, chart.yaml file. So in chart.yaml file, as you can see, this YAML file contains descriptive information about the Helm chart such as chart name and version. The next is values.yaml file. So in values.yaml file, this file contains the application configuration values that the other YAML files in the template folder will use, and these values include the image name, container name, port mapping, number of pods, and the type of Kubernetes service, right? So here, if I open my values.yaml file, first of all, I'm going to enter cd and go to the nodeapp folder and run the ls command. So first of all, I'm going to open my values.yaml file. So let's enter sudo nano and our values.yaml file. So as you can see, there is a image, repository name, pool policy, image full secrets, and so on. As you can see here, in values.yaml file, there is a configuration values, configuration files, right? Okay. Now the next is here, next step is modify files. So let's modify values.yaml file, deployment.yaml file, and service.yaml file, right? In template folder, we need to modify two files, deployment.yaml as well as service.yaml. And here we need to modify values.yaml file. That means total we need to modify three files, values.yaml, deployment.yaml as well as service.yaml file. So first of all, let's modify values.yaml file. Okay, so in values.yaml file, so I'm going to open my values.yaml file. Here in repository, I'm going to change my repository. So here our repository will be this container, our repository here, that our Amazon ECR, that means Amazon ECR, Amazon container, Elastic Container Registry. So in Amazon Elastic Container Registry, as you can see in our Amazon Elastic Container Registry, you can see there is a URI. So I'm going to copy this URI and paste here, because we are going to here we need to push this image to our ECR. Sorry, please push this Helm to our ECR. So that's why here we need to enter our ECR URI. So my ECR URI is here, right? And the tag is here. I'm going to enter my tag is latest. My tag will be latest. After that, if I scroll down here, imports, first of all, change this service file. So type service file. So my type will be load balancer. My type will be load balancer. And then next is here, let's check. My type will be load balancer. After that, target port is 8080, right? Our target port is 8080. As you can see in our server.js file as well as docker file, our target port is 8080 and the protocol is TCP, and our app name is nodeapp, right? Okay, now let's save this file, right? So I'm going to save my file. So here we need to change this type, right? Load balancer. Cluster IP replace with load balancer. Let's save this file and exit. Okay. Now if I run the ls command, now go to the template folder, because we need to modify two files. Firstly, enter deployment.yaml file, right? So here in deployment.yaml file, there is a changes here in container port. As you can see in container port, right? So let's check. So let's go to the deployment.yaml file here, and the container port is here. And let's copy the line values.service target port, right? And here there is only service port, right? Here we need to enter target port. So I'm going to paste this line here. Okay, now let's save the file and exit. Now let's open our service file, sudo nano and our service file, service.yaml file. So okay, so here in service.yaml file, so I'm going to copy my service.yaml file. So here is my service.yaml file. So I'm going to copy my whole service.yaml file and let's paste here. Okay, as you can see, it's done, right? Okay, let's save the file and exit. So let's save the file and exit. Okay, we have successfully modified our three files: service.yaml file, deployment.yaml file, as well as values.yaml file. Okay, now it's done. Now the next step is we need to push this nodeapp folder to our GitHub repository. So as you can see here, after modifying files, then we need to push this code to a nodeapp folder to our repository. So firstly, we need to clone our repository, then paste this nodeapp folder to our GitHub repository folder, then push this code into our repository, right? So let's clone our repository first. So how to clone? So go to the code and copy the HTTPS. Copy the HTTPS and go to your terminal and here enter git clone and paste your HTTPS that we have copied. So as you can see, it's cloning. Okay, it's done. Now firstly I'm going to clear my screen, and if I run the ls command, so as you can see our repository, you can see Node.js Helm Chart Deploy EKS using GitHub Actions. So if you go to my folder, in the ls command, so as you can see the file, dockerfile, admin.md file, package.json file, server.js file. If I run the ls-a command, so there is git.github and as well as all files, right? Okay, now here we need to push this nodeapp folder into our this repository folder. So how to push? So first of all, let's enter cd and run the ls command. So there is a folder with the name nodeapp, and we need to paste this folder into our repository folder. So the command is like this: sudo cp means copy hyphen r, and our folder name is nodeapp, right? We need to we need to copy this nodeapp folder to this dot slash to this our repository folder. So our repository folder name is node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub action, right? Okay, so let's enter. Okay, now if I run the ls command, there is a folder nodeapp. If I go to my repository folder, there is also a folder with the name nodeapp, right? As you can see. Right, if I run the ls command, as you can see, there is a nodeapp folder as well as all these folder files, right? Okay, now if I run the ls command, so as you can see our folder nodeapp. So now we need to push this code into our repository. So as you can see in our work in our article here, you can see after modifying files, we need to push this code, push this nodeapp folder to our GitHub repository using these commands. So let's push. So first of all, as you can see, the command git add dot, then git commit m, and our commit will be app added, then git push. So it will ask our username. So my username will be DevOpsint and the password. So here we need to enter personal access token as a password. So as you can see, it's done, right? We have successfully pushed our nodeapp folder to our repository. So let's check. So go to the repository and refresh the page. So you can see our folder with the name nodeapp, as you can see, right? Okay. So now the next step is we need to update our workflow. So as you can see, the 13th step, update GitHub action workflow. So let's update our GitHub workflow. So here let's add new stage in GitHub action workflow. So here you can see the last stage, deploy Node.js Helm chart to EKS. So let's go to the workflow and let's update. So let's update our workflow using this code. So let's copy the stage. So here I'm going to add this stage in last. Okay. So as you know, the node app, this is my folder name, right? Okay. So let's commit changes. Now let's go to the action and let's check our workflow. As you can see, it is in queue. So now it's in progress. So wait for a few seconds. Okay, so as you can see, our workflow succeed. You can see the step. Now you can see our last step, deploy Node.js Helm chart to EKS. You can see our name node app, last deploy, the date and timing, and the namespace default, and the status is deployed, right? So okay, so let's check. So first of all, go to the terminal and here let's check. So firstly, enter kubectl get pods to check. So as you can see, the status is running and you can see node app and ready and the status is running, right? Then let's check the deployment. So the command is kubectl get deployment, otherwise deploy. So you can see ready and the available is one. Okay. Now let's check service using SVC. And now you can see the node app and the cluster here is LoadBalancer and the cluster IP and the external IP. Now let's copy the external IP and let's check in browser. So as you can see, hello world, our image. That means we have successfully deployed this here. You can see we have successfully deployed this image to our EKS. That means Helm chart to our EKS. Node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub Action. So in this session, we have learned Node.js Helm Chart Deploy on EKS using GitHub Actions. So thank you for watching.